What's happening in the canine industry? For all the latest news, views, and expert opinions, stay right here for the Canine Paradigm. You'll hear from industry leaders, experts, doyens of the industry, learned colleagues, movers and shakers, and the odd randy guest. Get the latest insights and expert advice from both here and abroad from the people in the know. Now, here are your hosts, Glenn Cooke and Pat Stewart. And I'm Lofty Fulton, and I'm out of here.
Glenda?
Yes.
We have to do a new ad.
We do.
It's a solemn time. Mm-hmm. Our long-time sponsor of the show, George Kittredge,
Yes.
very, very sadly passed away. And we formerly used to advertise for him his Rowdy Hound boxes.
We did.
So we don't actually know what's happened with Rowdy Hound boxes. You know anything about that?
I looked at the website. It said that they're recalibrating since their founder and boss has passed. But nonetheless, I think that you and I want to honour the memory of George Kittredge anyway. He was a friend to both of us, a hell of a good guy, and he supported us almost immediately. He was on board through and through, and I just don't want any of us to forget George. He was a terrific human being.
So we intend to continue to advertise Rowdy Hound, even though we don't know what's going on with them.
Yep.
In the hopes that they keep going, and that can be a bit of George's legacy that we're able to continue to promote.
I hope so.
In checking it out, we had a look to see, because we're not real good with the sponsorship. So we had a look to see who's actually paying for sponsorship. And we have a list of people to tell you that we support. And the first is our sugar mama, Barbara de Groot.
She's been with us from the start as well. Barbara's been an absolute staple in our...
She's a gem.
She is a gem.
She has a business.
She does. From the Heart Dog Training.
From the Heart Dog Training.
Yep.
You can check it out. But she supports us as much and more than anybody ever has. So we appreciate you very much, Barbara. Another person who's supported us from the start.
The Einzelwiener.
Einzelwiener.
The Bullfed.
The Bullfed.
Yep.
It's where I get all my stuff.
Yeah.
It is, truly. It's where I get all my dog gear. If I need something, Jason's my first point of call. I don't use his shit website. He has a website. It's dog shit. I just message him directly. You guys probably should use his shit website, but I don't.
Yeah, because you don't want to message him directly and get his grumpy ire of the day.
Yeah, but do it. Get all your dog stuff from Jason. He's got everything you need. He's got all the shit that you need to train a dog for realty.
Everybody who comes to seminars and looks at meals and asks me meals questions, ask Jason.
Yeah.
Jason can point you in the right direction for getting the meal that's best suited for you.
I really like his leashes. I'm a big fan of his leash pack. That's why I sort of convinced him to do it. But anyway, get your stuff from Einzelwiener.
Yep.
Do you know who has a fantastic website and ships internationally?
My wife?
Your wife,
Yeah.
Canine Pharmaceuticals.
I couldn't imagine her not having a good website, how much of a perfectionist she is.
Well, the products are amazing. My dog merely being alive is a walking testimonial to that. My dog, who I've retired numerous times and has come out of retirement when I've managed to get his body back to healthy, and a big part of that is related to Canine Pharmaceuticals. So check it out, everybody.
I could say so many nice and biased things about Canine Pharmaceuticals and my wife, but what I will say is ignore me. Just look at testimonials. The testimonials speak for themselves. That's where the field trials are working. What makes Narelle's day, and mine as well, is when people are emailing in and sending messages of, well, primarily people have had no hope in the past because just everything that they were trying wasn't working, and now it is. And that is the testament that something is actually really working. And the other thing which I will add, one of the things that Narelle's told me in the past is dogs are incapable of understanding the placebo effect.
Oh, that's a good point.
So you can fake it on a human, but you can't fake it on a dog.
I never thought about that before. That's actually a really good point.
Well, my wife's actually a very smart person.
There you go.
So she's told me that humans are subject to the placebo effect where dogs are not. So it either works or it doesn't on dogs.
There you go. That makes total sense.
Yep.
There's one other person who puts a fair amount of work into this show.
Yeah.
It's me.
Yeah. Funny about that.
And I have a digital product that you can buy. If you go to my website, seriousdogbusiness.com, right now I've got 2 courses available to you. The Overview, which is a small course where you could learn how I teach.
Yep.
But the other one is the Wave Tops, which is a bigger course. It's everything I know about dog training. Well, it's not everything. It's a lot of what I know about dog training.
Yeah,
Check it
terrific.
out.
Yeah.
$500 dues. That's all it's going to cost you.
I recommend it when people are saying, what do I do? How do I get in the industry? I recommend them to your course.
Oh, wonderful. Thanks,
Yeah.
sir. All right, on with the show. Welcome back to the Canine Paradigm. I'm your host, Pat Stewart. I'm joined today by my co-host, Glenn Cooke. Welcome back, sir.
Certainly more than 5 business days since we were recording an episode.
Hasn't it? It's been a month, hasn't it? It's been actually a bit over a month.
Yeah, it's been a month. We left early in October and we got back at the end of October.
So tell us about it. We recorded a bunch of episodes before you went, so there wasn't like a massive disruption. It was just a slow trickle out. But tell us, where did you go? What happened? What was the point of the trip? Where you been? Give us the rundown.
We originally landed in LA and we stayed there to decompress for a couple of days, which was lovely. We stayed at a really nice hotel, the Intercontinental in downtown LA. It's the tallest building in Los Angeles and beautiful hotel to stay at. Fantastic staff, beautiful rooms. You literally look all over LA, which is...
Yeah, right. Okay. One of those big ones. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those huge ones. And we went up to the top restaurant, which is on the 73rd floor or something like that. LAPD were flying the helicopter around and doing flybys at the restaurant and everything and waving to people. So that was pretty cool.
Right.
It was fun. Yeah, it was watching them zooming around the city in the helicopter. And mate, it's a busy city. I mean, it's a city that never really stops. It's just business going on all the time. There's sirens and there's horns honking and there's smog, and it's a fascinating city nonetheless. We wound up in LA. We then got a private car and drove down to San Diego for the Feed Real conference that Narelle wanted to be a part of, and she was a sponsor of the show as well. She'd also done a podcast with the host of the event. Really good, absolutely fascinating. I didn't know how I'd feel about it, given that I didn't really know a lot about it and didn't do a lot of research into it. Narelle obviously did. I knew some of the speakers that were going there. Some of the highlight people were Karen Becker, Rodney Habib, Dr. Connor Brady. But even the other speakers did an absolutely tremendous job down there. And one of the things that I thought was fantastic was not only their open criticism of people not feeding and supplementing their dogs properly, but they were actually backing it up with science as well, like backing it up with legitimate stories about how Big Pharma and a lot of these private equity companies and massive corporations are just literally pumping our dogs full of shit, and people are just buying it up. Like, the marketing is so impressive and so powerful and so extensive that people just don't realize what they're actually doing with their dogs. I've been on a campaign of this for quite a while now. I've got skin in the game. So before I say anything else, Narelle and I have a supplement company. So when people hear me talking about this, they're saying, oh, you're just saying this to sell your products. It's nice to make money out of things and it's nice to have a successful business, but it's also nicer to have healthier dogs. And since I can see the evidence, I can see the transition it's making, I can see the reports coming in and the feedback coming in, not only with us, but with other companies that we support and that we're a proud partner with. And this is not an endorsement. I'm not getting paid to say this. There's no money coming our way or sponsorships or anything like that. But we're proudly using products like Big Dog with our dogs. We're using Antinol. All these things are making an amazing difference. But what I wanted to say about this, what I really wanted to highlight, was that there's a growing trend now in America with people that have had enough and they realize that they've been duped long enough now, and that they're making like a significant transition to show people, not only with just people who are pet dog owners or dog owners in general, but you've got impressive people within the science community now that are coming across and saying, I know this is going to kick me in the ass and my colleagues are going to turn their back on me and it's going to cost me in some degree, but they're also being rewarded by a large community too who are saying, thanks for telling us the truth. Thanks for not being bought and paid for and just a puppet or just a moving mouth that's been rewarded by a company, you know, a private equity group. And mate, vets get a lot of punishment for things. And you and I have talked on the show about how stressful their job is, and it's one of the leading causes of suicide and so forth. There are vets who will definitely just take money and they'll say whatever they need to say because they just need their business to survive. But there are also vets out there, Narelle and I know a bunch of them, that do the research, and before they put their name on a product, they actually look extensively into it. So they're not just being rewarded by a private equity company and saying, you know, like, put your face on this brand and sell it and we'll make millions together and there's a big payout for you. There are actually significant vets now that are moving into the field, and they're either A, doing their own products, or B, they're properly working in partnerships with companies who have ethical standards. And that's what I really was impressed to see. Like, I'm sitting amongst a group of educated people. This conference is growing. Like, this is the second year they've had it, and it was a sellout conference. They started last year. They had good success with it, but now the momentum is really moving. It was great to meet people, to talk with people in the industry, especially for Narelle. It was terrific to see her mixing it up with people, being in the same league with people who are also intelligent people and do their research and look at the science. And I got to nerd out with them and got to talk dogs, but also got to talk about healthy dogs too and how we can be doing this much better and how we can really make a significant difference into our working dogs, into our pet dogs, into our dogs in general.
How did the conference go? Like, what was the layout? Was it a few days? Was it just like an ISCP style, like everybody's at the hotel? Were there dogs there? Was it speakers, multiple times through the day? What happened at the night time? Give us the rundown.
It wasn't at a hotel. We stayed at a place called Torrey Pines in San Diego, which amazingly, the entire time we stayed there was just covered by a blanket of fog. It was literally,
really?
mate, it was foggy every day. Like, it looked like Stephen King's movie, The Mist. I was waiting for giant creatures to come storming down the beach.
Was that normal, or were locals surprised by it as well?
It can be. I think what the locals were surprised about was how long it was hanging around. To jump ahead of this conversation, we left where we were at Torrey Pines and we actually went and stayed downtown San Diego, and the weather was completely different. It was sunny, blue skies, beautiful weather, and San Diego was such a beautiful city.
Right.
Friendly, clean, lovely, just an amazing place to visit. I really recommend it. They don't get a lot of rain. It's quite warm down there. If you haven't been to San Diego and you want to see a nice city in America, loved it. Loved walking around there. Felt completely safe. It was a terrific place to be. Back to what you were talking about. It was a venue that a lot of people were staying in one hotel. We were staying in another hotel, so we weren't staying in the recommended hotel, but we were like 10 minutes walk from where the conference was. So Narelle and I just had breakfast, walk down there every morning. It was a beautiful auditorium, like really classy. The hotel itself was laid out well. What I loved about it was the effort that the presenters put into it, the host of the conference. They had probably about 50 blow-up dogs all around the place. The signage, the marketing was absolutely next level. Like, America does things so well with things like that. It was just incredible. And they must have put a shit ton of money into it. It's called the Feed Real movement or the Feed Real conference. If you're interested in getting on board with looking after your dogs better and so forth, I mean, I can't plug Canine Paradigm enough, but there's other companies out there who are doing really ethical things. They really, really want to help you get your dogs healthy and get you on track. And like I said, introducing people to doctors in medicine, people who are scientists, people who are researching this extensively and looking into it like a wellness program, not only for dogs, but also for you and your dog as well, like how to live a complete and a much better lifestyle. You can probably tell I'm speaking of this with a lot of passion because I'm quite enthusiastic about it. And it's the direction that I want to change in what I'm doing in dogs in general anyway. Is I don't want to just be dealing with behavior. I also want to be dealing with diet and behavior now because I can see the importance of a correlation of how these two things fit together. And I think if people aren't doing this, then really they're going to get left behind because the movement is large, it's growing. People around the world are waking up to it. They're not under the blanket and the guise of big marketing anymore. And there certainly will be people that are. Even to add to that, Pat, with talking about this, where people might be thinking I'm saying do a radical change everything. It's expensive to do all those sort of things. I get it. There's even people like Karen Becker and Rodney Habib who say to people, those of you who are on kibble diets and can't afford to switch off them, just do something smaller to change it up, like add fresh vegetables to diets and so forth. Even that is going to have an effect of that. I'm not trying to shame people, nor were they. They weren't trying to shame people who finding budgetary restraints difficult with their dogs and so forth. They're just saying there are things that you can do. There are meal toppers and supplements out there now that you can actually do to make a difference in how your dog will progress going forward.
You said something interesting there that's something you're trying to get more into. What's that look like practically? Like somebody comes to you these days, I've got this aggressive dog, because like you're dealing a lot of like proper dangerous dog stuff, right? Like
hands-on
dog's
stuff.
been labeled dangerous.
Yeah.
They come to you, dog bit whoever in the street, is now dangerous. Are you then and Narelle doing a bloods or like how's it go when we talk? You're so interested in nutrition as well as the behavioral side now?
Great question. It's certainly something that I have open dialogue with people from the get-go. Like it's a leading question I have with them now. Like, what are you feeding your dog? How long have you been feeding your dog that? even getting into the nuts and bolts of how much medical procedures have you had with your dog, how many times are you vaccinating your dog, all those sort of things. I profess, and I will say from the start, I'm not a vet. I'm not going into that territory. I don't tell people to come off meds. I don't tell people to take certain meds. If dogs need to do things, I tell them to go and see a reputable veterinarian. I love having a relationship with vets. I never want to be it known that I'm beating up on vets because I love them. I think that ethical vets and people who are doing the right thing, they're so important to our industry and they're so important to the integrity of raising our dogs right, because dogs still need to have vaccinations and they still need all these sort of things. But what has changed and what needs to change more is we need to make sure that we're not overdoing it. What concerns me is the in excess side of everything. I always say, and I'm quite open on this, I'm always in excess of overeating. Like me and food have a...
You and me both, mate.
Me and food have a terrible relationship. As I said to you when we opened up this podcast, my clothes shrunk when I was in America because I had such a wonderful relationship with bacon over in America. I can't tell you how impressive bacon is in America compared to Australia.
Really?
Mate.
I prefer Australian bacon.
No.
I much prefer Australian bacon.
No, it's greasy and I've already been under attack by this. I've had so many people reach out to me basically saying, they were going to close the borders to me over my... It's just me. We all have our preferences on things, but it's not as greasy. It's nice and crispy. It's like smaller. Every morning I'd get up and just say, oh my God, I've just got to have a little bit more bacon. And Narelle would be saying to me, I know you're enjoying this, but you've got to go back to reality. And there was lots of bacon, lots of day drinking going on. So yeah, it was a pretty impressive time.
Nice.
The thing about that is I know that I'm doing these destructive things. Even when I got back, we were on supplements, we were over there, which were really helping. But she said to me, you've got to make some changes when you get back. You're getting older. You can't afford to carry around too much body weight. I made a joke over there and I said, oh, geez, I'm getting fat. At one stage, I think it was Narelle, someone else went,
Oh, burn. That hurts.
Yeah, it's the truth. I'm aware of it. I'm not trying to disguise it. It's one of the things that it's a vice that I struggle with. But when you talk about consent, which I have trouble with that whole dialogue when you're talking about in dog training, I actually do have consent with the amount of food that I put in my mouth. It's me that's doing it.
Yeah.
It's not like that old saying like forks make you fat or anything like that. It's me. I'm doing this. I'm in control of this. Whereas with dogs, when we're not dealing with their health, like they don't have any option there. They just have to eat what you're putting in their bowl. Like their medical plan and their supplement plan or whatever that people are doing with their dogs, that's on you. Like that's entirely up to you. And again, please, I'm not shaming people who have budgetary issues and so forth. There's been times in the past where I've tried to talk people out of getting a dog or a puppy because I just know how much financial viability. And then I've had other people say to me, hey, Glenn, that's not your business. You can't tell people what to do. I can't. It's not about telling them what to do. It's just advising them of the difficulties that they'll have. When dogs get sick and when medicals and foods and everything start stacking up, people will start realizing, shit, this is now starting to cost me money. But I also know that some people would rather make sure that their dog's lifestyle is better than theirs, which is... it's a bit of an oxymoron as well. I know this isn't the health and supplementation podcast, but dogs in general, and when we're talking about the lifestyle and the integrity of what we're actually doing, we deal with the integrity of behavior, but we need to look at it as an overall holistic integrity of everything. And it doesn't mean that we have to do it. Like there are specialists. There are people like Narelle, some of the smartest people in the world that are doing this, that can help and advise people. It was wonderful to see a room full of really integral, intelligent people that can help people with their movement into helping their dogs live a more successful, more comfortable, more abundant life. Like if you're getting involved in training and your dogs are athletes, then you've got to start looking at these sort of programs. You've got to start considering them. There's no athlete in the world that I know of where their coaches advise for them to eat shitty food or eat the same food every sort of day. Like their diet plans are structured. Their supplements are laid out. They're saying to them, if you want to be an athlete, if you want to be ahead of your game, you have to do the things that other people aren't doing, because deficiencies in normal diets are very, very real. The food that we're eating, even the fruits and vegetables that we're getting in supermarkets, they're deficient. Narelle's done podcasts on this before, which people can listen to, but they're 70% deficient in minerals that we used to have going back 50, 60 years ago, because things are so mass produced now, like we're just not really getting what we need to get out of it. I've been around, I've heard people say, oh, it's all hocus pocus. It's just a movement to get people onto supplements and shit like that. Mate, there are shit supplements out there. There's no two ways about it. There's celebrities who will endorse supplements that are just crap. Like they're the lowest denominator of anything that you can put on the market. And they will give anything a bad name. When corporations and private equity and groups like that, they're always looking to cut costs. They're always looking to, how do I make it cheaper? How do I get it out faster? How do I make more profit on it? How do I make sure that the profit margins are bigger on this? So they will produce shit stuff. But there's a ton of people out there now who are not doing that. They're actually making sure that what they're putting out to the market, the foods that they're feeding their dogs, the progress that they're actually making, it's not about profit. It's saying to people, I know it's expensive, but it's expensive for a reason, because the quality of what I'm giving you is much better than the cheaper one that you'll have to take like 5 times the amount of and still maybe, like not get an effect of it and then have doubts whether this stuff actually works. That happens in the human side of things. It happens in the pet side of things. Ethics are a big thing. So do your research. Listen to me, don't listen to me, prestige worldwide. That's the thing that I'm trying to say to people is do your research. Get out there and listen to what people have to say. While I've been away with Narelle, and not only on the trip, she likes to listen to podcasts. She's always listening to science-based podcasts and when people are whistleblowing on the industries and so forth.
Okay.
That's why my education is climbing, because I'm now not as ignorant as I was about it. I'm now invested in this. And to answer your question before, when you were starting to talk about working with dangerous dogs, that's one of the leading questions that I want to get into. What are you feeding your dogs? Incredibly, the vast majority of dogs that are having problems, the vast majority of dogs that I'm seeing are on poor diets straight away.
Yeah.
They're on a kibble, and usually a really bad one as well. The problem is the market is flooded with really bad ones with such fucking powerful marketing. These companies have hundreds of millions of dollars to spend on marketing alone. And again, do your research, look into it yourself. You're getting duped. Like you're getting people who are impressing you with marketing, and they're paying people to tell you that this product is wonderful and it's healthy and it will completely balance your dog's diets. But what we're seeing in the transition of dogs that are aging out at 4 years deficit of what they should be, there's something in that. There's something wrong with a very broken matrix when you start seeing dogs that are like they should live to 15, 16 years of age and they're lucky to make it to 10. That sort of stuff sucks and it's fucking heartbreaking. I'm sick and tired of watching, like we've had dogs of ourselves that they're 11 years old and they're fucking getting carcinomas and very aggressive cancers that are just like leaping off and taking off suddenly, where it shouldn't be like that. We should be seeing dogs gracefully dying of old age and so forth, not petering out with some pancreatic cancer or pancreatitis itself or all of these terrible and relentless diseases that are popping up all over the place. I know the diseases are real. They happen, and they do happen to healthy people as well, but it seems to be like it's just in abundance at the moment, and it's something that the curtain gets pulled over. We just live on this out of mind, out of sight sort of thing. There's a Turkish proverb that says something about the axe convincing the forest. Just because its handle was made of wood, it was one of them. And politicians and people in industry where they're making fucking more money than you and me will ever see in our life, that's the problem, is that they lie to you and you soak it up because you're just thinking, these people want the best for me and my dog. The marketing says so, and even the impressive people that will get on TV and sell their soul out to them, they'll just do it. I know people think I've taken a pill and I'm going crazy, but I just need to do this now. I need to make this transition. And it's not about just getting people to buy our stuff, because there's plenty of people that I'm saying, get this stuff. It's nothing to do with us. We don't get anything from it. Like, get your dog on this food, make these sort of transition. And mate, the marvelous thing is when people are doing these things, you can see a transition. Like the dogs are coming across.
Oh, for sure you can.
And that's what I said before. Like there's no placebo effect in dogs. Like when you give them real stuff and you see real results and real changes with dogs, humans can believe in medical science and suddenly that they can have a change because they really want it to happen. And I know that we can affect behavior in dogs, and we can get like a placebo-like effect in that, where we can inspire our dogs to be doing things and then suddenly, like we want to believe they're better. But dogs and animals are very honest how they feel about things. If they're sick, they're sick. If they're showing signs of improvement, then they're genuinely showing signs of improvement. So from there, to move on to the story a little bit more, we went from sitting in San Diego, then watching this terrible hurricane form right in the Gulf of Mexico.
Oh, yeah, you were there for that.
We were literally going to Orlando for the next seminar, which was the Judy Morgan seminar. And the Feed Reel Institute or Feed Reel Conference was quite big. There were like 250 people there. The Judy Morgan one, there was over 500 people there. Enormous planning, enormous amount of manpower or person power, whatever you want to call it. Sadly, they had to pull it for everybody's safety. Sadly, the Floridians got hit by another fucking hurricane, which was just a monster. It was a Cat 5 hurricane, and fortunately it reduced and didn't do the damage they expected it to, because Narelle and I were just like, all of America and a lot of people in the world were just watching this thing like tear through Florida after Helene just went through weeks before. Me and Narelle and 500 other people and a bunch of Floridians had to change our plans, and unfortunately some people had to change their life, and terrible things happened to their houses and their livelihoods, and it was just terrible. And I think it
was terrifying, actually.
Yeah, it was. And I think not being an American and not getting highly involved in the political side of it, but there's a lot of unrest over there at the moment about North Carolina being completely gutted by Helene and the very, very little support that's happening while they're still funneling hundreds of millions of dollars into other countries' issues and not really resolving their own. And I think that was quite sad. But I don't know all the facts around that. I'm just hearing the grumbles, what people say on the street. But so we changed our plans. We had planned to be in Florida. We had planned to meet up with a few dog people over there and planned to go to Disneyland and stuff like that, because Narelle's never been to the United States before. So,
oh, really? It's the first trip?
It's her first trip. So,
wow.
So we changed plans. We switched tracks and we went to Vegas for 4 days.
Nice.
And I've never been to Vegas. So I said to Narelle, I said, look, we're here. We're stuck in America. I said, we can either make this a holiday for you because you need some downtime, or we can do some more doggy things. And she said, oh, look, I probably, if we're not going to do this, I probably prefer to have some downtime, just have some time with you. I said, cool, we're going to Vegas. We'll do 4 days over there and we'll do 3 days in New York. 2 places I've never been to before. Vegas was Vegas. It's enormous. It's opulent. But we had a good time over there, ate some great food, and we went and saw the Blue Man Show and Cirque du Soleil and so forth. So that was really cool. We walked all over Vegas. I went to my first Bass Pro Shop and hung out there for a day. I went to one of the gun ranges in Las Vegas and fired a bunch of machine guns and had a great time. That was great. That was good fun. And then we flew to New York City. A lot of people over time have said, oh, New York people are really rude. The city's busy all the time. It stinks and blah, blah, blah. I found the opposite. I didn't think it stunk, and I thought the city was really clean and the people were really friendly, and even people who were hustling on the street to sell tours and hats and stuff like that, if you talk to them nicely, they talk back to you nicely. They come up and offer you a brochure, and I'd say, no, thank you, sir. And they'd say, have a good day, mate. You know, we just have a bit of a chuckle as you're walking past. And I talked to a few homeless people over there, some ex-veterans, and they were asking for money, and I didn't have like cash money on me at the time. There was one guy I was talking to. He went over to Iraq and got both his feet shot off. He showed me the scars and everything, and I said, mate, if I legit had cash, I'd definitely give it to you. He showed me his war record, and he came over and he grabbed my hand. He goes, hey, I mean you no harm. I just want to talk to you if that's cool. I said, yeah, tell me your story. I'm interested. He was telling me all about it, and I said, dude, if I had cash, I'd give it to you. And I said, I don't have any cash on me at the moment. He goes, mate, that's all right. He goes, I appreciate that you looked at me and treated me like a human being. And I said, you are a human being. And I said, you've given 2 feet for your country and to fight in a war. I said, that's terrible, mate. And I said, I wish the best for you. And that was nice. It was nice to make a human connection with somebody. And even though I wasn't able to give him anything, we talked for 20 minutes, and it was nice to have a chat with him and hear his side of the story. We also got to catch up with Kiribul Johannes, who we
oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah, we read one of his comments on the show, but he met us for a day. He showed us all around New York, things that we would never have walked around. And so, we walked so much, I had to take an Advil. My knees were killing me. Like, my knees and feet were absolutely fucking killing me. I think we did like 20,000 steps or something.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, it was a big walk. We walked the Brooklyn Bridge. We walked through Brooklyn. We walked through Wall Street. We went on the underground. That was a cool experience, like things that Narelle and I would never have thought of investigating. We went to this ice cream place, pub sort of thing, and sat down and nerded out and talked about dogs for a couple of hours. And he's a cool dude. He's really made some impressive life decisions. You know, he packed up his stuff and he went and hung out in Europe for a while, and he he was over there with some really impressive people and spent time shadowing them and picking their dog shit up for him so he could learn from them and literally being the coffee boy and learning from them while he was there. And I said, mate, that is fantastic. He goes, mate, it was a terrific experience. You know, like I got to see a side of these people that is different than the social media presence. Like you actually get to see how they're training dogs and what they're doing and what happens when problems arise. And I said, but that's where the sweet spot is. The problem with social media is it's basically the concept of all that glitters isn't gold. I said, what you're seeing on social media is the golden side of fool's gold, where people are trying to hook you into a funnel or a story or anything like that, but it's not real when you go and hang out with people and you have a real human connection. And I said, I was lucky. I got to grow up in the days of dog training where we didn't have the pressure of social media and having to be on camera and people recording everything. We just were working. And if you wanted to spend time with people, you had to drive down to their place and hang out with them and see what they were doing. Yeah. And, you know, it reminded me of, I was listening to a thing about the Beatles where John and Paul, I should say, they had to drive to different areas to learn how to play a chord on their guitar because they knew that they were missing in songs but didn't know how to play the chord. So they went and drove or got the train or the bus to a different area in England to learn to play a different chord. And that's what life was like, you know, like you had to do those sort of things.
Had to find someone that could teach you.
You had to go and find the guy. And that's what I said to Kiribati. I said, mate, that's fucking awesome that you did that. I said, I'm envious that you know, like you went and did those sort of things. I said, I've done that where I've had to meet people and go and see what they're doing. And I said, Pat did that when he helped us create PSA in Australia. He went over to the Nationals and hung out with people and got slammed by dogs and had no idea what he was doing and listened to industry professionals and brought it back to Australia and said, all right, this is what I've learned. This is what we got to do. There's a lot to unpack and there's a lot more that's coming our way. You know, and I said, those things, that's the back block of building things up and creating an impressive network of how to learn how to do things. I said, because social media will only tell you so much. And I said, don't get me wrong. There are some incredible things that I've learned from social media. There are, there are skills that I've learned that are undog related that I've learned from watching YouTube or social media. And I really appreciate how much time and free time people have given other people to learn all those sort of things. But sometimes you're seeing artificial stories of people's success. Yeah. And I said, and you meet these people in real life, and some of them are the most miserable people you could ever meet. You know, like it's just a complete change. Funnily, when I was away, I was reading comments where other women were attacking women in dog training about wearing scantily clad clothes while they were training dogs. Right. I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to get involved in this. I'm not going to say anything because people were chiming in and, you know, like some guys were making comments and then getting attacked for being a man and saying things on women's things. And I thought, yeah, I don't want to say anything about this because the comments were pretty outrageous. You know, like they were saying, stop bringing OnlyFans to dog training. But it was women talking about other women. And then I thought, yeah, I'm out of this. I'm bowing out. Until I saw a comment where they were saying, yeah, but if men did it, if men walked around like this, that was the outrageous comment because I don't know men that walk around in their Speedos while they're training dogs. And I thought to myself, don't say stuff.
I think there is one guy. I think there's a guy that comes up in my feed every now and again.
Really?
Yeah, there is. I can't remember his name. He came up in my feed a while ago and he's beautiful. He's a giant jack dude and he wears not a lot while he's training his dogs. I can't remember his name, but I remember thinking at the time, I was like, oh, fair enough. Like if I look like that, I doubt I'd ever wear a shirt again either.
Well, I stand corrected.
Just put an end to it.
Yeah. I wouldn't be sitting there making comments like, yeah, King, get that budgie smuggler on.
I think that's what I wrote on his.
Yep. Funnily enough, when we were in New York City, there was a guy walking around with underwear, cowboy boots, a cowboy hat, and a guitar. And
he's an Aussie guy. Yeah, he's Australian.
Yeah, he walked straight past us, and Narelle's gone, what the fuck? And he's just like tipped his hat at us and just like smiled and walked on. And I'm thinking it was cool. Like it's 15 degrees, and the guy's walking around with underwear on and cowboy boots.
Yeah.
I was telling someone about it. I said, freakish thing happened. This guy just walking around. They're going, oh, yeah, he's been doing that like for 15 years or so. Like he's the famous cowboy of New York City or whatever it is. I thought,
and he's Australian. He's an Australian guy. It makes no sense. But yeah, I watched a YouTube video on him ages ago. He's been at that forever.
It was quite a sight. And he's a pretty fit dude. But I was not going to slap him on the ass and go, you go, King. You go, dude.
Leave that to me.
Indeed.
So after you were in New York, you then went and you guys presented a seminar, right?
We did, yes. So we were hosted by Melanie Benware over in Virginia, and it was fantastic to catch up with Melanie. Melanie and I, and even Narelle, but especially Melanie and I, we've been friends since 2018. We've been continually being really great friends. There's really probably not a week where I don't speak to Melanie on an ongoing basis, and she's been really supportive all of the time. She's one of those people who, if I need the truth in something, I know that I could speak to Melanie, and she's one of those closed group friends of people that I know that she has the integrity to tell me things that I may not want to hear or things that I need to hear at the time, and I really appreciate her for that. She's a good person with being an integral friend. So can't say enough good about her in those sort of things. So it was great to catch up with her. And her husband, Jason, they just opened their house to us. I feel like I'm with family with them over there. You know, we're hanging out with the dog, sitting on the couch, watching TV. They cooked for us. They made breakfast for us. They're just wonderful, lovely people. And the reason we were there in Virginia, obviously, is it was great to catch up, but we're also, Melanie planned about 18 months ago that she really wanted to host Narelle and me to do a seminar. So Narelle did 2 days. I did 1 day. Fantastic watching Narelle doing her thing. She's an impressive powerhouse of knowledge, sometimes to a detriment where people are just overwhelmed with how much knowledge she can like fill the head with. We also got to hang out with Barbara DeGroot while we were over there, the sugar mama.
Cool.
She sends her love and she sent some little gifts your way. So I've got some stuff here for you.
Awesome.
She's a funny lady. One of the things I really love about Barb, if she's got something to say, she'll say it. But she's a funny sweetheart. She drives a Hummer. She doesn't give a fuck. Yeah, she drives a Hummer, like a full-size Hummer.
Like the mil spec one? Like the
like the
113 or
a big orange fluoro Hummer.
The square, like civilian made one.
Yes, that one.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
A Hummer, not a Humvee. Yeah, sorry, you're right.
Yeah, like a Hummer, like a street-ready Hummer. She came all the way over from California to support us and hang out. We got to do a few dinners with Barb and chat. She's got a really good and funny sense of humor. So obviously we got on like a house on fire. It was really terrific. That's the other thing I really wanted to say about my love of the United States is their fucking toilets are so much better than ours. Like,
really?
Oh, mate, our toilets, like when you're having your morning poo, you've got like about 300 millimeters of drop when you hit the water.
Yeah, it's a completely different design, yeah.
Mate, it just makes no sense. Like when you hit the water, it goes bang and water flies up all over the place. It's a fucking disgrace. When you're in the States.
I actually prefer the opposite. It is an interesting thing for people who have never been to Australia or haven't done the crossover. Like the toilet systems are completely different. They work in a completely different way in that US toilets are gravity fed and Australian toilets are like a push propulsion system.
That just macerates like everything.
It's a completely different system. They work completely differently.
I know people aren't really tuning in to talk about toilets and poo, but I've got to finish this off because when we were in when we were in LA, and because we went back to LA to finish off and decompress for a few days and look around Hollywood and everything like that, the Intercon, the room that we're in, had a toilet that when you went in there, the seat lifts up, like the lid lifts up. It's got a heated seat. And it self-cleans. It's got a light that comes on in the toilet. It's, like every time I'd go to the toilet in the morning, it was like Enya was playing in my head. It was like I'd hear Only Time from Enya playing and the birds were singing and everything was great in the world because this toilet was just magnificent. And
right.
You look at the water in there and when you first get over, you think that's too much water in a toilet bowl. But it's like a baseball catcher. Like it just catches everything and just puts it in place nicely for you. And then like you're just sitting there thinking, this is just magnificent. It's not like our fucking drop system where everything just explodes and it's just carnage and it fucking, like I said, it's a disgrace. Fix your act up Australian toilet manufacturers.
All right. Okay.
Anyway, I'll move on from that because I know people won't be impressed about that one. So seminar in Virginia went really, really well. Fantastic job by Narelle. I did a day on talking about, it was called the Puppy Accelerator Program. So we were talking about how to build puppies up. I've taken a lot of video of all the time that we were breeding shepherds and rotties, all of the things that we were doing over the span of probably the last, it was probably within 10 years. I showed people a lot of videos that we were doing with puppies. And we had great conversations because the subject comes up a lot about it really favors working dog selection. And even you and I, when we're talking on the show, it talks about like favoring selection of a working dog, a dog that's going to be useful for some sort of sport or career or something like that. But what I wanted to do was have an inclusive conversation with people who don't have that luxury, because we were talking about rescue dogs as well and rescue puppies. It was about growing your puppy into an adult dog. The things that people need to consider and the things that they can do to change the tracks of where the puppy is and where it's going to, and even considering conversations that you and I have had in the past where even though that ceiling isn't going to be as high as some of these super selection dogs, the idea is to find where the ceiling is of this dog and to touch the ceiling if possible. Get your dog as close to that ceiling as you possibly can. Even people in the seminar, it wasn't just about me talking, and I said that at the start. I said, I want this to be a room conversation where when I'm talking about something and when I'm showing you videos or presenting things to you, I want you to be a part of this discussion. It is a discussion, not a lecture. The conversation was, people asking those questions. They said, look, I've got a dog who isn't like that, who is a bit sketchy with people and environments and so forth. What about my dog? What about my puppy? I said, glad you asked. These are very important questions because you make the largest percentage of people in the world who have started life in a different direction. Like, it wasn't about selecting a dog for a working dog or a sporting role or something like that. It was just, I fell in love with a little puppy I saw and I wanted to take it home. Incredibly, even though that we have an abundance of information that's provided with podcasts, with social media, with online courses and so forth, there are still people out in the wild that somehow aren't getting this information, or they're getting the wrong sort of information from people who are just looking to make a fast buck and who are reckless, diabolical sort of people. Sometimes the life of their puppy into their dog, they just don't have a fighting chance because that's literally their introduction to the world. Whereas where people are doing the right thing and they are teaching people, this is like the limitations of your dog. But just because it's the limitations, it doesn't mean that this is the end for the dog. Like, we can try a lot of things and we can really move into a different sort of paradigm with how we raise these dogs. One of the other things, mate, I really wanted to talk about was how impressed I was. There were 3 dogs that were in the room for the entire weekend, 3 days. There were 3 dogs there that were service dogs of some capacity. I'm not estranged to seeing service dogs who are called service dogs who have terrible temperaments, who are completely out of control and a complete disgrace to what a service dog is called. And in large degrees, it's a dupe. People taking up space in the industry that are duping the system and duping the credible people who really need these dogs. These 3 dogs were outstanding in their behavior, like incredibly beautiful behavior dogs that didn't put a toe out of line the entire time. There was a Great Dane there, and even for a Great Dane, I mean, a lot of Great Danes I see who can be very, very thin on behavior. This dog was just incredible. He was beautifully behaved, incredibly behaved. Loved playing, loved having fun, loved getting involved with other people when it was allowed to happen, and obviously through the permission of the handler of the dog. Just incredible. But all 3 of the dogs, all 3 dogs that were there were just beautifully behaved. When they were told to stay on a space, they stayed on a space. When they went and played outside, they played with abundance, like they weren't robotic, weren't controlled, weren't void of having a life outside a service dog. They were very much an integral part of being a service dog, but also being a well-behaved, well-adjusted dog as well. So absolute fucking kudos to the people who brought those dogs along. When we're assessing dogs or creating dogs for service roles, that's really what we need to have. Is not dogs that you've got to have a 10-meter radius away from them, or they're going to light you up, or they're completely out of control and have to be crated and are disruptive. I mean, I've seen service dogs in Australia who are wonderful. Jazz is one of them. She's got a legitimate dog. My mate Q, who was in Red Team, his little Springer that he had, beautiful. Still got, she's in America with him at the moment. Like I said, there's an abundance of people I know in Australia and America who have got legitimate dogs who are incredible, and I just want to really tip my hat to them and say what a great job and how proud you should be of yourself and the integral work that you've put into creating these dogs as well.
Yeah, it's a tricky one with the service dog stuff because, unfortunately, I try and stay out of that space as much as possible because it's so tricky.
It is.
But I think the problem with the difficult service dogs that we see is very often the challenging nature of that dog and the constant management that they need is part of the service that they provide to the people they're providing it to. That's one of the trickiest parts, is that you see, like, you know, what I've seen a lot of is the people who have anxiety issues themselves and therefore need a dog with them or whatever often create some of the anxiety issues that were then in the dog. But the management of that and the way that that keeps the person busy is the service that the dog provides. You know, like, so it's so fucking difficult. That's why I'm glad I don't deal in that section of the market, and I'm glad I don't rely on a dog like that myself, because I think that that's such a complex topic. You know, it's not as simple as I think a lot of us as trainers just go like, oh, your dog's not suitable. And it's like, yeah, but this is the dog I'm bonded with. This is the dog that is performing the function for me. It's a tricky one. It's very difficult.
It very much is a tricky one, and it's a political mindscape as well. Unfortunately, there's a lot of corruption in there. There's a lot of times where people are fucking the system over simply because they want to get a dog that they can take on flights with them because they want their dog with them.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
You know, people who legitimately need these dogs and rely on them, and it's abundantly clear that their mental health is so much better for having these dogs around, and their lifestyle is so much better for having these dogs around, whether they've got hearing or visual impairment or whatever it may be. These people really need these dogs. It's a fucking outrage when people milk the system just so they can have their dog hang out with them on flights because of their privilege. And
yeah, it's a tricky one.
Those people need to kick up the arse. They need a reality check. They're holding a spot that somebody else legitimately needs. Like I said, entitlement is just incredible with how people feel like they need something, so therefore they'll just go for it. They'll just think, I want this, so I'm going to take it regardless. I'll take your spot in line. But yeah, mate, it's something that working with service dogs is something that I leave to other people who are more proficient with that field.
Yeah, it's a difficult one.
That's pretty much a wrap-up of what we did over there, mate. It was great all over. It was a wonderful experience, and I really enjoyed my time in the United States. I really love America. I feel terrific over there, to be honest. I really feel like I'm split between two countries. Like, I feel like, even though I'm a son of Australia, I really feel I could transition to America. I feel like, of course, Melanie's trying to find a plot of land for Narelle and I to come and move over there. So, you know, like she was showing me land for sale in Virginia and said, you guys should really consider it. You never know. Maybe one day as a retirement thing, maybe we'll head over to America. I don't know. But I do love it over there. I do love a lot of the freedoms afforded to America. There's so many things I love about Australia as well, but I do love things in America. I love the way I feel over there. I don't know. I just feel different in America. I don't know. I can't explain it. I just feel different in America. I feel happier over there.
That's interesting.
It is interesting. It's a weird dilemma.
Well, sir, I'm glad you had a good time. I'm happy to have you back. And I guess a good wrap-up episode of your trip. And then we're back to our regularly scheduled programming as of next week.
Yeah, I didn't know I'd have this much content in me to waffle on about my recap. But I'm legitimately happy to see you too. And I missed you, and I miss my family, and I miss a ton of other people over here. And it was nice to come back and see them. But I really enjoyed our trip over there. Like I said, it was just everywhere we went, we were having a euphoric experience. And
Yeah.
You know, and
that's the thing. I think, like, you know, you go there, you're on a mission, you're doing a thing, you're burning the candle at both ends because you know it's not real life.
Yeah.
You know, like all those sorts of things. And then if you were to actually move to settle in, you'd probably find that it's very familiarly the same, you know?
Exactly right. Australia is still a wonderful country. I love so many things about this country, and there's also so many awesome people over here who are just incredible, and they're huge influences on my life and in my career and so forth, and I can never repay them for the things that I've learned and the friendships that I've gained, and I count myself very blessed to have some very quality people in my life in Australia, but also in America as well. Like I said, there's wonderful people over there that I really connect to on a really deep level, and I feel myself very fortunate to have those people in my life, and I'm sure you feel very much the same because you're very well received in America as well. And like, even when I'm over there, there's people that were very interested in the podcast and who haven't met you before but wanted to know what you were like as a real person and blah, blah, blah.
It's a real piece of shit. We spend a lot of time covering that up.
The wonders
of editing.
The wonders of social media.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm glad you had a good time.
Thank you, mate.
I feel like that'll do it for another episode of the Canine Paradigm.
Yeah. Well, it pretty much got us to the hour.
As always, if you like what you hear, like, rate, share, subscribe. Do that through whatever subscription service you download us from.
Indeed.
Go and do it on another one. If you want to support the show, jump into Patreon. $few a month gets you a giant backlog of information in there, as well as a bunch of new stuff going forward. You could pay a bit more and get access to these live streams that I do every month. They're always fun.
And pay for our transition to America.
Yeah, that's right. Big changes coming to like my own content strategy and stuff. Like my new course is just about to be ready. So that's going to really change the way things go, which will have a flow-on effect in Patreon. So I'm excited about that. Yeah.
That's really exciting.
It is. It's exciting. I'm going to be, for people, anyone listening, I'm going to be putting out very, very soon, like in the next few days, like registration for the first intake. Like I'm going to do an intake of just 10 people to, act
like
as beta testers, I suppose. Yeah. And so it'll be significantly cheaper to them. And it'll be people who I want people who have digested a lot of my content because I want feedback. Like my goal is, what I've essentially done is I had all these different plans about how to sell it. And I had these ideas of like, I'll make a course of this and a course of this and a course of this. But ultimately, what I've ended up landing on is making just sort of one giant package that I'm just going to keep evolving over time. And so I'm excited about that. That'll be ready very soon. But as I say, that will have flow-on effects to everything to do with the podcast and the way that we create content in the Patreon and all that kind of stuff. So I'm very excited about that.
And when you want
feedback,
really
leaning into it.
You don't want to give it to Shields too,
For sure. Yeah. So like to me, this has been a lot of work. It's a big thing that I've been working on. And what I want to create is like what I'm looking to make, not to sort of push it, but my goal is I'm trying to create the course that I wanted when I first decided like, okay, no, I'm serious about this dog training stuff. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's for somebody who's like, okay, no, it's time for me to stop fucking around. Like I really want to understand this stuff and I want to be able to hold my own in a conversation with anybody around the world about dog training. Like I want to know the ins and outs and how it works. And of course, it's a course, so there's plenty of practical demonstrations, but you have to do that in your real world. Watching me do stuff online is helpful for a visual, but you have to then get out in the real world. The goal is to prepare you for that so that you then, like whoever you train with, when they tell you to do something, like you might decide like, okay, I'm going to get a specific healing coach or whatever. When you're talking to them, everything they say will make sense because you'll understand the bigger picture of dog training. It's to try and increase that level of knowledge of like, high level expert to bring that available to the newer person coming in and just accelerate how quickly you can be successful in that same way. So anyway, that's in production. That'll be ready soon. So jump into Patreon. There'll be plenty of content going into there, as well as everything that I do, we make available within the Patreon at a significant discount for everybody that supports the show because we really appreciate you guys.
That's awesome, mate. Very good.
The other thing you could do to support the show is jump into Spring, get yourself some merch. We get yourself some tapestries, some T-shirts, some hoodies, all the cool stuff.
Did you see my video where I had an American flag as a cape and I was in Melanie's field spinning a...
No, people were telling me about your exciting story. So while you were gone, I actually took like a month off social media. I just kind of figured hey, while Glenn's gone, I don't need to be posting anything about the podcast. We've pre-recorded a bunch of stuff.
Yep.
I just wanted to, my business takes a hit when I don't post anything, but I just wanted to have a month of not thinking that way. If I'm honest, it was wonderful, but I didn't see any of your stories. I didn't get to see any of your stuff. People were saying, oh, did you see Glenn's doing this? I was like, no, I haven't. I'm sure that he'll tell me, but I'm staying away from it all for now.
Okay, before we do the official wrap up, because I forgot about this part, but it was one of the most exciting parts of my trip is while I was walking down the street, I was loving the American patriotism of seeing their flag. So every time I'd see one, I'd film it and I'd put the Team America, fuck yeah. And I'd put that song to it. And I thought, I'm going to get in trouble somewhere along the line here. Someone's going to say, oi, stop it. People were on board with it. A lot of people found it funny and, people were, even over there, were connecting with me and saying, oh, that's hilarious. Melanie, obviously, she goes to me, oh, we should really ham this up on your last one. And I said, yeah, let's do it. So we went to a Walmart, which I haven't been to before, which was a cool experience as well. We found a section where they've got like huge flags that you can put on your balconies and so forth. And a bunch of small flags and a flag that you wear as a cape. So I had a cape flag and I was running through a field doing a big swirl of the flag and spinning around in circles and stuff like that. So that was fun. A lot of people laughed and joined in on the hypocrisy and the fun of it, which was great. And I really appreciated that no one got angry about it. The other thing, which was a real mind fuck for me and something I really had a lot of fun with, in New York, fucking steam really comes up from vents in the ground. And I was like gobsmacked when I saw that for the first time.
You thought that was just Ninja Turtle fiction?
Mate, I thought it was Ninja Turtle or Ghostbusters because I saw it in movies and I'm thinking, oh, this is just stuff that they do in movies to make it look gritty and street and stuff like that. Mate, it fucking legit happens. It was the most exciting thing. I filmed it and people were like dying with laughter over my fascination of it, but I was legit fucking gobsmacked when I saw it. And every time I'd see it, I'd film it and put something up on social media on my Insta story. So yeah, we had a lot of fun with that as well. So that was really good fun.
How funny. Love it.
Yep.
All right. So last one, if you want to get in touch with us, best way to do that is to jump into the Facebook discussion group. So there's 11,000 people in there. So really good conversations. Be nice. Don't be a dickhead to anybody. Jump into there. Or if you want to shoot us an email, we are info@thecanineparadigm.com. Love you all. Goodbye.
USA.